firearms.
Ranges, backstops, and burn.
Hey, welcome back to RBB. I'm here with Alex Jones from Jones Firearms Coaching. And Alex, it's good to have you on the channel.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate that.
Well, thank you. Thanks for coming. We have bumped into each other a couple of times at the range. I found out you had a YouTube channel, and I looked at some of your stuff, and I was really impressed with the insights that you were offering to your subscribers. And so I was like, I got to get this guy on the channel. So we've had a little bit of chance to talk, and one of the things that we've always tried to talk about when it comes to citizens and their development in firearms training has been learning the law and also how to develop their skills. But I think you brought another particular insight as far as something that you were bringing up earlier about what kind of decisions to make. So I'm interested, can you expand upon that?
So making people understand that, making decisions in a self-defense situation can be very, very complex.
Okay.
And then trying to look at ways to offer students or, citizens, self-defenders, options for what they can do on, let's say, static range like the one we have here.
Right.
So because a lot of people don't have access to, action ranges where they can move around, do drills where they're walking and moving around and stuff like that.
Sure.
So looking at ways, how can a novice or even a more experienced person who don't have nothing but the booth itself, what kind of things can they do to improve their training when it comes to building skills around self-defense shooting?
Well, it's interesting because the times that I've seen you out at the range, you're going through a series of progressions, and I'm like, man, that guy, he's got it all planned out. And most people that I happen to see come out to the range, while their heart is in the right place, they seem to be just kind of shooting at one distance and trying to hit the target. And when they do hit it, they just keep hitting the middle. But I've seen you, and so when you say there's more to it, I'm interested to hear what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, so when we look at, let's say, a self-defense situation, right? Best case scenario, person walks through your door,
Yeah.
You're standing there, you got your gun, you present it, you shoot them, in the game, right?
Right.
Best case scenario, so you've trained for that, everybody's trained for that on the range, right? You have a target that doesn't move, you have a target that doesn't cuss you out, you have a target that doesn't threaten you, right? And that's what you're shooting at. Now, if that was the perfect scenario, fine. But we all know in any dynamic situation that you're probably going to have to move.
Right.
And there can be times when if you don't move, you're going to get seriously hurt.
Right.
Right. And there are things that you have to address when it comes to muscle memory. Right.
Okay.
I teach law enforcement students. I teach civilian students as well. And some of the skills to try to build around self-defense shooting, like let's say, for example, shooting from behind cover. There's coordination that actually goes with that. Right. And if you don't have the coordination, sometimes, you may put yourself in a more unsafe position because you've never done it, right? So going through some of those things where, you can change elevation, you can kneel down when you're in a box, So there's all things you probably seen me do on the range where I know I can't get out in front of the line because other people are shooting. So what can I do within this box that's going to help me build some muscle memory, help me do things, also shooting with, your support hand. Right. Because you may not have your strong hand.
Right. And that's the kind of creativity that is exactly what I'm hoping that the viewers will go, oh, you know what? There is more that I can be doing here, the kind of stuff you're talking about. So give us some examples of one or two things that when you're planning what you're going to do at the range, what are the things that you want to make sure that you do pretty regularly, within whatever your structure is of your practice session?
Number one, first and foremost, mental.
Okay.
I like to think of it as like 80% mental for me. So if I'm going to come to the range, I know I need to do some mental exercises. And you may see me come in and I'll just be looking at the target for like 2 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm just staring at it, So I'm going in my head trying to think about different scenarios. And then also, in that mental process, I'm also asking myself questions like, can I shoot another human being?
Yeah.
I always ask myself on the range, like, can I shoot another human being? Because I'm looking at a paper target.
Right.
But in my head, I'm like, can I actually shoot another human being?
Right.
And then I say, what would be the circumstances that I have to do this, right?
Right.
And then I think about, okay, there's a responsibility with this. I'm not just, I'm pretty structured, so I'm not just like, oh, I'm just out shooting, having fun. It's like I'm on business at that time. Like I need to make sure I'm really focused. So number one is always mental, right?
Right.
When I come in, you probably notice I don't shoot a whole lot of rounds.
Sometimes, yeah.
Sometimes I go through about maybe a box or 100 rounds.
But you make them count, though.
I make them count, right? So I have things that I do. So one of those things would be, since you wanted an example, I'll probably do some deliberate work. One or two things. When I go to the range, I'll say I'm going to do some cold work first, meaning I'm going to just draw from the holster because I'm certified here, right? I'm going to draw from the holster without even like taking the first shot, no warm up, no nothing.
Yeah.
And I'm going to put myself through an intensive drill, whether that's paired shooting on the time or using one of the actions on thing, right? So I can say if a situation would have happened right now, today, could I effectively draw my weapon with what I had on? Could I make effective shots on the target?
Wow.
Or I'm going to come out and I'm going to do things super slow and super deliberate. Like everything from my draw is like super slow.
I've seen you do
super focused. Like I'm doing that to kind of like impress on my muscle memory at the same time, right? I'm even feeling where my fingers are, like how I'm gripping the gun. I'm doing it all very slow, all the way up until I aim the gun and then when I press the trigger. So those are some of the things I like to do. As far as getting set up in that box, you got a little space where you can step to the side. One of the things I would suggest to some of your users is to start scanning when they're shooting.
Right.
This is all mental preparation, right? So the way I do it is if I start working, I try to scan after all of my shooting, rounds. So you want to do that, you can start doing it with just paired shooting, meaning, you shoot 2 shots, bang, bang, and then you want to try to get a good scan in. But you've seen it before where you tell somebody, okay, do a scan, and they do that thing, right?
Absolutely.
So when
they don't mean it.
Right, they don't mean it. Right. So if I'm actually looking to scan, I'm actually processing all the information that I see come across my eyes. Right. Oh, there's a guy there, he's an AR-15. Okay, there's Paul, he's over there. Okay, boom, and I'm just processing this information to slow my brain down so I can see. Right. Because if I am in a defensive situation, I want to see if there's another threat. So scanning is one of the things I recommend. And then 2, looking at as much movement as you could possibly do. So one of the things I would recommend, I'll probably show you if we can get out in the range here, but changing elevation is a big deal for me.
Agreed.
Because a lot of people think, oh, I'm just going to go stand in front of the target just like I do in the range. That's going to happen, right? So I like to take a knee when I shoot, and that's totally fair. On the range, right? As long as you got the gun pointed down range and your fingers off the trigger or until you're ready to shoot. That's totally capable. But I will warn that if you're not physically capable to do something like that on the range, please do not do it. Don't try it because you can probably put some unsafe situations on the line at that point. Right?
Agreed. And if I could just interject there, it's good. It's a good point. But also, if you're gonna try something on the range that you haven't done before, there's no rule that says you can't try it dry first 100%. To make sure. Does that make sense?
Makes a lot of sense. Okay. Because I do a lot of dry fire, and I don't mean just clicking the trigger. Like I'm always changing my elevation. I'm always moving. It's almost like a workout for me. Right. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like a workout. So you can change your elevation on the range 100%. That's one thing I would recommend. And also using your support hand versus your strong hand shooting, because you want to balance out the body, right? One of those things is, we've seen people plenty of times, they've never shot with their support hand. So when if they got in a bad situation, they don't even know how to use the gun with the left hand, right?
All right. Catch you next time on Ranges, Backstops, and Berms. Jones from Jones Firearms. I missed it up.
Jones Firearms Coaches. All right. One of the things I would recommend to the listeners, or listeners, users.
Start over. One of the things I would recommend.
One of the things I would recommend to some of your followers or your viewers on the TV, whatever. I don't know what you want to call it. What do you call it? Subscribers, right? Viewers.
Yeah.
Okay.
What you might be thinking about. All right. I know.
I know it. That's like
Too
I'm
much
on
caffeine.
the easy end. I'm
All
just
right.
gotta answer questions.
Yeah.